90-Day Fiancé The Other Way once again brought longtime franchise veterans Jenny Slatten and Sumit Singh back to television screens, and for perhaps the first time in years, their storyline feels different. Not because the drama has disappeared entirely, but because it has shifted in nature. After years of intense resistance, emotional confrontations, cultural clashes, and deeply rooted family opposition, Sumit's parents have finally accepted his marriage to Jenny. That acceptance alone marks a massive turning point in their long-running saga, one that viewers once believed might never happen. Even more surprising is the fact that this fragile peace has been maintained, at least temporarily, while all parties are living under the same roof. Jenny, however, remains uneasy. From her perspective, the calm feels temporary, almost suspiciously so, as though it could crumble at any moment. Her fear is not entirely unfounded given the history between her and Sumit's parents. Years of rejection, tension, and emotional turmoil have left deep scars, making it difficult for her to trust that harmony will last. As a result, Jenny is focused on one goal above all else: financial independence. In her mind, the only way to ensure lasting peace is for her and Sumit to earn enough money to move out and establish a home of their own once again. Unfortunately, it does not seem that everyone involved shares the same understanding of how that goal will be achieved, especially when it comes to the so-called family cafe. In the latest episode, Sumit's new cafe venture encountered a significant setback even before its official grand opening. What was meant to be a promising step toward independence quickly became a source of frustration and anxiety. A full day of food preparation went to waste due to logistical issues, and the discovery that the cafe lacked a proper water source, one not connected to a toilet, halted progress entirely. This unexpected complication pushed back the timeline for opening, delaying any possibility of profit. For Jenny, this delay was devastating. Each setback feels like another obstacle standing between her and the independence she craves. Yet, despite her distress, it remains unclear whether everyone involved truly understands or agrees on what the cafe is supposed to accomplish. Jenny frequently talks about the cafe's profits as though they will flow directly and exclusively to her and Sumit. She emphasizes the urgency of making money quickly so they can move out and start fresh. While her desire is understandable, her assumptions raise serious questions. Even without extensive business expertise, it is common knowledge that most new businesses take at least 1 to 2 years just to break even. Initial investments, operating costs, rent, supplies, and unforeseen expenses often consume early revenue, leaving little to no profit in the beginning. Expecting immediate financial returns strong enough to support a separate household seems overly optimistic, if not unrealistic. More puzzling, however, is Jenny's apparent belief that she and Sumit will personally reap the majority of the cafe's profits. This is not a small, privately run operation managed by just the two of them. The cafe is clearly positioned as a family business. Sumit's parents are heavily involved, contributing their knowledge of traditional Indian cooking. His brother and sister-in-law are also part of the operation, and Jenny herself is expected to contribute in some capacity. That means any eventual profits would need to be divided among at least 6 people, assuming the business even generates surplus income after covering expenses. The idea that Jenny and Sumit could simply take enough money to move out without addressing how profits are shared seems naive at best and potentially exploitative at worst. If the family members come to realize that their labor is being treated as a stepping stone for Jenny and Sumit's independence, rather than a shared effort to support the entire household, it could quickly reignite old tensions. The parents who have already made significant emotional and cultural compromises by accepting the marriage may feel taken advantage of if their work primarily benefits a couple eager to leave them behind. Such a realization could undo years of hard-won progress and return the family to a state of conflict. From a practical standpoint, it makes far more sense for the family cafe to function exactly as its name suggests, a business designed to support the family as a whole. Sumit's parents have spent their lives adhering to traditional values, where family units work together and resources are shared. In that context, the cafe is less about individual profit and more about collective stability. If the business succeeds, it could improve the quality of life for everyone under the roof, making cohabitation more comfortable and reducing financial stress across the board. Part of the frustration viewers feel toward Jenny and Sumit's storyline stems from Jenny's long-standing resistance to fully embracing societal norms of India. From the beginning, she has struggled to adapt, often expressing discomfort or disdain for customs she does not understand. Her comment about the blessing involving cow urine, for example, was seen by many as dismissive and culturally insensitive. While it is natural to feel out of place in a foreign culture, Jenny's repeated reluctance to adapt has contributed to ongoing friction with Sumit's family. Now, despite being graciously offered a place to stay when she and Sumit had limited options, Jenny appears desperate to leave again. This urgency can feel ungrateful, especially given the sacrifices Sumit's parents have made to accommodate her. They're not only sharing their home, but are actively preparing traditional Indian dishes for a cafe venture that Jenny herself doesn't know how to cook for. Sumit, who was trained as a chef, has also been notably absent from food preparation, raising questions about his commitment and leadership in the business. Jenny's role in the cafe appears minimal by comparison. She has expressed plans to make the coffee, a task that seemingly involves using pre-ground beans, a filter, and a standard coffee machine. While this contribution is not without value, it hardly compares to the labor-intensive preparation of traditional Indian cuisine by Sumit's parents. The assumption that such limited involvement would warrant equal wages or profit shares is difficult to justify and further complicates the family dynamic. Despite these issues, the progress Jenny and Sumit have made as a couple should not be overlooked. Their journey has been long and arduous, marked by deception, financial struggles, and emotional pain. There was a time when Sumit could not even marry Jenny because he couldn't afford a divorce from his previous marriage. Compared to those early days of secrecy and instability, their current situation represents significant growth. They are legally married, accepted by the family, and working toward a shared goal, even if their understanding of that goal differs. If Jenny and Sumit are eventually able to move out and establish their own household, it would be a natural and positive step forward. Independence can strengthen a marriage and reduce intergenerational tension. However, if that outcome is delayed and the cafe turns out to be moderately successful rather than wildly profitable, it may be worth reconsidering what happiness looks like for them. Living with Sumit's parents under peaceful circumstances might not be the worst outcome, especially when viewed against the backdrop of their turbulent past. Ultimately, the family cafe storyline highlights deeper issues that have always existed in Jenny and Sumit's relationship: differing expectations, cultural misunderstandings, and conflicting ideas about family and independence. The cafe is not just a business venture, it's a symbol of these unresolved tensions. Whether it becomes a source of unity or division will depend largely on how openly and realistically everyone involved communicates about money, labor, and long-term goals. Jenny's fear of losing peace is understandable, but peace maintained through unrealistic expectations is fragile. For the family dynamic to remain stable, there must be a shared understanding that success, if it comes, belongs to everyone involved. If Jenny and Sumit can accept that reality and adjust their expectations accordingly, the cafe could become a foundation for lasting harmony rather than another chapter of disappointment. In the context of everything they've endured, learning to find contentment where they are might be the most meaningful progress of all. The Other Way has once again brought longtime franchise regulars Jenny Slatin and Sumit Singh back into the spotlight. And for arguably the first time in many seasons, their storyline feels noticeably different. The change does not come from a lack of drama, but rather from a shift in its source. After years filled with relentless resistance, explosive emotional arguments, cultural misunderstandings, and deep-rooted family opposition, Sumit's parents have finally reached a place of acceptance regarding his marriage to Jenny. This moment alone represents a major breakthrough in their story, one that many viewers once assumed would never happen. Even more unexpectedly, this newly established peace has managed to hold, at least for now, while everyone continues to live together under the same roof. Despite this progress, Jenny remains deeply unsettled. From her perspective, the calm feels temporary and fragile, as though it could collapse at any moment. Given her long and painful history with Sumit's parents, her anxiety is understandable. Years of rejection, constant tension, and emotional strain have left lasting emotional wounds, making it difficult for her to believe that the harmony they are currently experiencing will endure. Because of this lingering fear, Jenny has narrowed her focus to one primary objective: financial independence. In her mind, true and lasting peace can only exist if she and Sumit are able to earn enough money to move out and reestablish a household of their own. Unfortunately, it does not appear that everyone involved shares the same expectations about how this goal will realistically be achieved, especially when it comes to the idea of the so-called family cafe. In the most recent episode, Sumit's new cafe venture faced a discouraging setback before it even officially opened its doors. What was intended to be a major step toward independence instead turned into a source of stress and disappointment. An entire day's worth of food preparation had to be discarded due to logistical problems, and matters were made worse when it was discovered that the cafe did not have an appropriate water source that was separate from the toilet system. This issue alone was enough to halt operations entirely. As a result, the opening was delayed, pushing back any chance of the business becoming profitable. For Jenny, this delay was devastating. Each obstacle feels like another reminder that her escape from the current living arrangement is farther away than she wants to admit. Yet, even as she reacts emotionally, it remains unclear whether everyone involved agrees on what the cafe is actually meant to accomplish. Jenny frequently speaks about the cafe's potential profits as though they will flow directly and exclusively to her and Sumit. She repeatedly emphasizes how important it is for the business to start generating money immediately so they can move out and start over. While her sense of urgency is understandable, her assumptions raise serious concerns. Even without formal business experience, it is widely understood that most new businesses require at least 1 to 2 years just to recover their initial investments. Startup costs, rent, utilities, supplies, staffing, and unexpected expenses usually consume most early revenue. Expecting immediate profits substantial enough to support a separate household is not only optimistic, but largely unrealistic. Even more confusing is Jenny's apparent belief that she and Sumit will personally receive the majority of the profits of the cafe. This is not a small operation run solely by the two of them. The cafe is clearly structured as a family business. Sumit's parents are heavily involved and are contributing their expertise in preparing traditional Indian dishes. His brother and sister-in-law are also participating in the operation, and Jenny herself is expected to help in some way. That means any profits, assuming there are any after expenses, would need to be divided among at least 6 people. The notion that Jenny and Sumit could simply take enough money to move out without addressing how profits are distributed seems naive at best and potentially unfair at worst. If Sumit's family begins to feel that their labor is being used merely as a stepping stone to help Jenny and Sumit gain independence, old wounds could open very quickly. These parents have already made enormous emotional and cultural sacrifices by accepting the marriage. If they come to believe that their efforts primarily benefit a couple eager to leave them behind, resentment could build rapidly. Such a realization could easily undo years of progress and drag the family back into conflict. From a more practical and culturally grounded perspective, it makes far more sense for the family cafe to operate exactly as its name implies, as a business meant to support the entire family unit. Sumit's parents come from a background where family cooperation and shared responsibility are deeply valued. In that context, the cafe is not about individual gain, but collective stability. If successful, it could improve everyone's quality of life, reduce financial pressure, and make living together more comfortable for all involved. Much of the frustration viewers feel toward Jenny and Sumit's storyline stems from Jenny's long-standing difficulty in fully adapting to Indian social and cultural norms. From the beginning, she has struggled to adjust, often voicing discomfort or skepticism towards traditions she doesn't fully understand. Her remark about the blessing involving cow urine instance struck many viewers as dismissive and culturally insensitive. While culture shock is natural, Jenny's ongoing resistance to adaptation has consistently fueled tension with Sumit's family. Now, even after being offered a place to live when she and Sumit had limited alternatives, Jenny seems desperate to leave once again. This urgency can come across as ungrateful, particularly considering the sacrifices Sumit's parents have made to accommodate her. They are not only sharing their home, but are also taking on the demanding task of preparing traditional Indian food for a cafe venture, food that Jenny herself doesn't know how to make. Meanwhile, Sumit, who is professionally trained as a chef, has been notably absent from much of the food preparation, raising legitimate questions about his leadership and commitment to the business. By comparison, Jenny's role in the cafe appears relatively limited. She has spoken about plans to make the coffee, which seems to involve little more than using pre-ground beans, a filter, and a basic coffee machine. While this task has value, it does not equate to the intensive labor required to prepare complex traditional dishes. The assumption that such a contribution should result in equal wages or profit shares adds another layer of tension to an already delicate family dynamic. That said, it is important not to overlook how far Jenny and Sumit have come as a couple. Their relationship has been defined by secrecy, financial instability, and emotional hardship. There was a time when Sumit couldn't even marry Jenny because he was unable to afford a divorce. Compared to those early struggles, their current situation reflects real progress. They are married, accepted by the family, and working toward a shared future, even if they disagree on what that future should look like. If Jenny and Sumit eventually manage to move out and establish their own home, it would certainly represent a positive step forward. Independence can ease intergenerational tension and strengthen a marriage. However, if that goal is delayed and the cafe achieves only moderate success, it may be worth reevaluating expectations. Living peacefully with Sumit's parents might not be ideal, but when compared to the chaos of their cast, it may not be such a terrible outcome. Ultimately, the family cafe storyline exposes the deeper issues that have always existed in Jenny and Sumit's relationship: mismatched expectations, cultural disconnects, and differing views on family and independence. The cafe is more than a business, it's a symbol of these unresolved conflicts. Whether it becomes a source of unity or division will depend entirely on honest communication about money, labor, and long-term goals. Jenny's fear of losing peace is understandable, but peace built on unrealistic expectations is inherently unstable. For harmony to last, everyone involved must recognize that any success the cafe achieves belongs to the group as a whole. If Jenny and Sumit can accept this reality and adjust their mindset, the cafe could serve as a foundation for long-term stability rather than another chapter of disappointment. Given everything they have endured, learning to find contentment in their current situation may be the most meaningful progress they can make. 90 Day Fiancé The Other Way brought veteran couple Jenny and Sumit Singh back again for another season, and for once, their drama's a bit different. His family finally accepted their marriage, and they've even maintained peace in the short term, all while living under one roof. Jenny feared that the peace wouldn't last, and they needed to make some money and move out, but I'm not sure everyone was on the same page about their family cafe. The latest episode saw Sumit's new cafe hit a setback before its grand opening. Now, with a day of food preparation wasted and a plan to obtain a water source that isn't connected to the toilet, it's going to be a while before the new business turns a profit. Jenny was distraught because it moved the timeline for them to move out, but I'm not sure everyone is on the same page regarding the business plan. I'm not sure why Jenny assumes the profits of the cafe are going solely to her and Sumit. Jenny kept talking about the cafe's profits and how they need to make money as soon as possible so they can move out and get their own home again. First, I may not be a businessman, but I do know the general rule of thumb is that most businesses need a year or two of operation to break even on the initial investment, let alone turn a profit. Second, why would Jenny assume that she and Sumit will be taking enough profit to move out on their own? The cafe will be run by Sumit, his parents, his brother, his sister-in-law, and Jenny. That's profits split 6 ways, and of course, the money that remains after paying rent for the space and covering the cost of operation. And yet, she and Sumit both seem to work under the assumption they'll be pulling in all the money. I imagine it'll be a problem should the family realize they're essentially being used for free labor. It makes more sense the family cafe would support the family. I've written in the past that I can't stand Jenny and Sumit's storylines on 90 Day Fiancé, but I realized a new reason why. From the very start, Jenny has never wanted to really adhere to the societal norms of the country. She had to say something about the blessing involving cowpea, and now she's desperate to get back out on her own after being graciously offered a place to stay by his parents when they had no other options. Now, those same parents are prepping traditional Indian foods for a cafe that their daughter-in-law doesn't know how to make, and their chef's son is not preparing himself for some reason. Jenny, meanwhile, has plans to make the coffee, which looks to entail adding pre-ground beans, a filter, and water to a coffee maker. Why she would assume that is worthy of equal wages to everyone else, I am not sure. If Sumit and Jenny can leave his parents' house, that would be great. But if not, and the business ends up being a moderate success, I wish they'd just be happy. They've come a long way from their early days of Sumit being unable to marry because he couldn't afford a divorce. Compared to those days, maybe living with his parents isn't so bad.